Today I am doing the Colette bowler bag by Papaya. It was supposed to be done last week, but I was a little bit sick. So I did it this week instead. I've done two things different. One of the things is I've only got one zipper, and the other thing is I did different handles. But I still think it's adorable. And yeah, so if you'd like to see how I make it, stay tuned. Alrighty, let's get started. So I am going to do this according to the pattern. So just off screen, I've got my laptop with the pattern instructions, and I'm going to make it in the order that they do. This is a new thing I'm trying, instead of just willy-nilly it like I normally do. And we are therefore starting with the straps. So this is just double-sided tape that I'm putting down the center. Now, if you can't eyeball the center, draw a line and then stick the tape over the line. So I've got half vinyl, half fabric straps because I thought it would look cool. This is currently my favorite type of strap. I'm sure I will move on eventually, but not yet. So I'm just going to fold both sides into the center the whole way along. Making sure that the ends meet up. And then I'm just going to finger press it like that. And then grab one of my straps. So my straps are 1 inch wide, and this is 3/4 of an inch wide. So to do that, you just cut double. If you've got different hardware, you're going to use different sizes. So I also have 1 1/4 rings that I use on my bigger bags. So therefore I would cut everything bigger. So I'd cut 2 1/2 of the vinyl and then probably 2 for the fabric on top. So I'm just stitching 1/8 of an inch down the edge of the fabric, and I'm holding it centered over the vinyl. Now, if you're new to bag making, I would suggest another piece of double-sided tape so that it sticks it in place for you while you stitch it. And then as you become more advanced, you'll find you may not need double-sided tape. And if you do, that's still okay too. So I'm just going to tuck under this raw edge. So I deliberately cut them a little bit longer so I could tuck the raw edges under. Now, fabrics like cotton will actually stretch a bit, so if you cut it the same size, it will stretch out to the end, so you've got a little bit to tuck under. But things like polyester have no give, so always just consider that when making your bag. And then back stitch at the end and trim your tails. So that's one strap done. I really love this fabric. I actually have a pair of shorts in this fabric. For summertime, they're my like lazy house shorts and dash down the street shorts. I do wear them out. In fact, I might need some new pairs this year. So we might be getting a lot more clothing patterns towards Christmas. Alright, so I'm doing the same again. I'm just folding it into the center. Now, I used to be terrible at doing both sides at once, but the trick is pinch it together. So pinch it together like this and then push down, and it goes to the center. You do just eventually get faster at it. Practice really does make perfect on that, because if you watch some of my earlier videos, I really sucked at it. Alright, so again, I'm going to tuck under the raw edge. And the reason I haven't already ironed the raw edges is because I went and got myself a bias tape maker that irons this for me, basically. But it doesn't tuck the ends under. But I figure it's not that hard to do. Alright. Also, when doing a strap, have all the pieces of fabric coming straight down, basically between your legs. Don't have it off to the side and then expect it to be straight, because it'll get kinks and stuff. So if you have it sitting straight, it's going to help. You don't ever want to have more than about 1/2 inch to tuck under, because the more you've got to tuck under, the more chance you've got of it poking out the sides. So I always just have a little bit This is why I have fingernails, so I can poke all the edges so it sits nicely. I actually get fake nails because I can't grow my own, and I get them for sewing purposes. I mean, they look good and that's a bonus, but super helpful for poking. If you don't have nails and you don't like fake ones, you can also use a stiletto or sewing awl to kind of stab it like this. That's why I have mine. Okay, so handles are done, so I've popped them out the way. So let's scroll down to the next bit. And the next bit is our front slip pocket. So that would be this shape one. So you should have one lining and one outer. Where is my outer? There. So my outer, I've put the extra heavy iron-on non-woven, and then my lining, I've put a woven medium. So we're just going to stick right sides together and stitch the top curve. So I'm going to go back to a joining stitch length instead of my decorative one. So for me, that's 2.5, and then my decorative is anywhere between 3.5 and 4, whatever I'm feeling on the day. I'm going to back stitch at both ends and trim your tails off now. Now, because this is a curve, you may just want to put a couple of snips along it to help it bend nicely so it doesn't have rigid sections. I possibly could have skipped this, but it's good to know. So it's just got random snips. So now when I flip it over like this, it's still going to have its curve. Now you can either iron or finger press this. I'm going to finger press it because I've become quite good at doing so. But otherwise just a quick shot of steam and that'll hold that in place. And then I'm going to top stitch that as well. So I'm going to go up to my decorative stitch length, back stitch at the start, and back stitch at the end. And the purpose of top stitching is to keep that edge nice and crisp. People always ask me, why do we top stitch? For this particular reason, it's to hold that seam right on the edge so that the back doesn't roll up and it looks like this. Okay, we've done that. So now we are up to the next bit. So we're going to grab one of our fronts. Mine are almost identical. So it's just a matter of which one do I want to put the pocket on, and I think this one. So the way I'm going to find the center and put the pocket is I'm actually just going to fold it in half and then crease it out, and that is the center of the bag there. So I'm going to take some scissors and just do a small snip, and I'm going to do the same with the pocket piece. And this will ensure that it sits right in the center. You can also measure it. And then you just line those two up along the bottom like that. Grab some clips. I actually probably don't need to clip it, but I'm going to for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to clip it there, and then I'm actually going to baste it on all 3 sides. My strap will be going over this raw edge, so we don't need to worry so much about that. I'm going to move that before I knock it off. But if I baste it down, now I won't have to think about it. And if you love slip pockets, you could put another one of these on the back if you wanted to. Okay, we always back stitch at the end to lock the stitches. And then trim your tails and throw them in the bin. All right. So next up, we are doing our strap connectors, which you should have 4 of these. bit of a mess here. All right. So again, I'm going to grab some double-sided tape and put it down the center. You can actually train these together. So you just butt them up against each other and continue on. And then at the end, you can just go along and snip in between them all. Just make sure that they don't overlap, because then that won't work. Right, so now you just snip in between them all. Don't lose that bit. Okay. Peel the backing off, and we're going to do the same thing again when we bring both sides into the center. Now if it's not 100% center, that actually won't matter. So long as you've got, the whole point of bending it in is so you've got no raw edges on the sides here. So if it's like 70-30 or 60-40 and not perfectly in the center, that's actually still okay. So don't be worried if it's not, you know, 100% centered. I don't. My bags still come out cool. It's an unnecessary stress. What we care more about is sewing them on straight. Okay. I just do this extra kind of squish and pull to make sure that the double-sided tape's really stuck down. Alright, both sides, center and down, center and down. Another thing you can do, if you don't have strong fingers, you can actually just kind of wipe it on the edge of the table like this to help with the crease. The other thing you could do as well is get like a credit card, and score it from the back. So then again, on the edge of the table, and voila. Now, if you wanted to, you could top stitch down the center. That's more for decorative purposes than anything else. I won't be doing that. But I am going to take my other piece that hasn't got the pocket and also fold it in half and find the center. Because then we have to measure out where the straps sit. And it's always easier to know where your center is. So now, because mine's quite a dark fabric, I'm actually going to be using my Chaco pen. If this was a lighter color, I would then use my friction pen. So it's all just relative to the color of the fabric, really. Okie dokie. Done that. Where are we up to here? Okay, so where are these? I don't remember what measurement they are. This was a bag that I was going to do last week. So I'm going to take my 4 rings before I start measuring things and slip these on. Now, I personally always do 1 inch. You can do more, you can do less. I wouldn't advise less. But if you've overcut them, if you weren't paying attention to the pattern properly and you cut these too long, you just tuck more of it under. So I just like to stick 2 clips on it to hold it in place while I do this. And the way I measure is I put it, I've got a ruler here, which you guys can't see. So I just put it 1 inch down like that and then fold it over. But you could do 1 1/2, 1 1/4. I wouldn't double it all the way. That will be a very thick bag to sew, especially at the base. And you also want to make sure that the join is face up when you're doing this, so that they're not going to be on the outside. Fold it over. So this works the same with all size rings. These are my small rings. I'm contemplating whether to bother stocking them. I am progressively changing all of my bags to the bigger ones but I bought a lot of these. So, I don't know. Alright, so now I'm going to measure how big that is, and then I'm going to measure that far up on my piece. So I don't give out measurements, so I won't be telling you what this is. But what I can tell you is that I also mark. So I'm going to mark down, and then I'm going to move it the 1 inch over, and I'm going to mark across. So that little across bit that I've just done here, so that little across bit will actually remind me which side it's going to go on, and also make sure that they're going to sit perfectly even on both sides. If you don't have that, you might find that one will be higher than the other, which is obviously something we don't want. That goes there, and then I shift it over 1 inch and then draw my line. So that little line, it's erasable, so it's not a big deal, but it's super important to making sure that everything lines up well. So I'm still on my decorative stitch length from before. So I'm going to line up this edge along this line, like this. Making sure I backstitch. And then I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch up the side. Making sure that that's perfectly tucked under. It's not going to pop out. And then pivot and go across. Needle down and then back down the other side. Making sure we backstitch, which I know you're sick of me saying, but I'm going to keep saying it. So that's one down. Then we're going to grab the other one and do the same thing. So this time we'll be starting on the side where the line is, because I always like to start on my right. That's just my thing. And needle down, pivot. So when you go across the top, you want to basically have a skinny foot and then sew up next to it. So if you're on a domestic and you've only got those normally wide feet, my suggestion would be to use your zipper foot and then just put some Teflon tape on it, or buy a 1/4 inch foot where both sides are 1/4 inch. I don't know, you've got some options there. Okay, so then I'm going to do the other side as well. So again, marking. You could have marked them all at once if you wanted to. So up. So this will actually be drawing on your slip pocket. If you're not drawing on the slip pocket, you've made a mistake somewhere. Because the whole point is to hide the raw edges. And move it across and do my 1 inch line. So now this will, so basically the edge will now be approximately in the middle of your strap, so that we're going to hide that raw edge by sewing the strap on. Needle down and pivot. I'm also going to add some rivets onto this in a minute, because I like the look of rivets. Sometimes they just like accent really well. Needle down, pivot, across. I'm just folding that down out of the way because just off camera is a pile of the stuff. that goes with the bag. Trim your tails. Now the reason I say trim your tails all the time, if you do it as you go, it's not half as dramatic as if you don't. Okay, rivets. I love having two rivet cam presses because one is always set up with the rivet and one is always set up with the hole punch, and I only change them when we need to do other things. So I'm going to measure down to where I want my rivet to be. So I'm going to put mine right there. So I'm just going to stab a hole with my stiletto. Because I'm using black vinyl, there's little to no chance you're going to see it if I was to use a pen. So it's just as easy to stab a hole. Squish it down. Flick that out of the way and do the other one. I know these only look like little containers, but there's like, well, I'm probably down to about 150 rivets in there now. I go through a lot of rivets. Alright, so I've pushed the caps onto the back. Then I'm going to take my other cam press, stick it under, and then squish it down. So with the rivet press, you feel it kind of go down that extra bit, and then you know they're in. So that is now the front. You've got your pocket, and I did manage to center my flowers quite nicely, and then that's those bits. So we're just going to do the same on the other side because symmetry is also important. So if you make a mistake on one side, quite often if you do that same mistake on the other side, it no longer looks like a mistake and looks like an accent that you've added to the bag. Only you know mistakes. Because people you're buying your handbags generally can't sew, therefore the mistakes that you think are blatantly obvious, they don't even notice. I'll pop that on the floor out of my way. And again, pop some rivets in. Now if I had picked a different bag, if this was a skull fabric, what might look really cool is if I did the rivets all the way down as an accent. You could also use spikes or something. I don't know. I can see that looking really cool. Okay, pop those down there. So now we're on to our little accent corners. Now I'm doing vinyl, so I don't have to sew them together. If you're doing fabric, she actually has a pattern piece for fabric ones, and then you just sew them together and then turn them out. And then when you top stitch them on the bag, they are super cute. So I'm going to start from here. And I'm going to back stitch. And I'm going to go really slowly because these are tight curves and I want them to look nice. So again, I'm stitching about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And it's okay to stop and lift your foot if you need to. Slow and steady wins the race when it comes to these accent pieces. So this time I'm going to start from the top and work my way down because I want the bulk of my bag out of the machine. And again, back stitching. And voila! So if you're new to top stitching, I always recommend doing the same color thread. But if you're more advanced, you could have actually top stitched all of this vinyl with an opposing thread. Like I could have used the orange or the green. And that would have looked really pretty as well. But I didn't think of it until now because I'm top stitching. Actually, and my green that I've got is only like a lime green. I needed a more darker bottle green. Okay, stick that in the corner. Now, again, if you're new to this, you could actually put some double-sided tape on the back. I will show you, just for sewing's sake. So I'm going to put it not where I'm stitching, but I'm going to put it on an angle so that it's going to hold it in place for me. So if I was, if you're new to sewing, just stick on a piece of tape like that, and then that's going to hold your accent where you need it so that you can concentrate more on your top stitching and less on it moving. So then you line up the corner, done. See, so now I can maneuver it however I want and it's stuck down in place. Of course you're going to misbehave. My machine's being naughty today. So I always pull my bobbin out and make sure there's no loops in it when that noise occurs, because usually it's a, hey, my bobbin broke. If you go too fast backwards on this machine, it creates loops and doesn't like me very much. Except I didn't think I was going that fast. Alrighty. Now that I've put the accents on, what's next? The base. Okay. So I have put my stabilizer on the base and I've made sure that it's not in my seams. And so then I'm just going to line this up along that edge. If you want to, grab some clips. As many or as few as makes you happy. The more clips there are, the less you have to concentrate on where you're holding things. So quite often I don't pin because I've been sewing for so long. But pinning's good because now I can kind of just guide it one-handed if I really wanted to. And if you always put your clips up, they're easy to just kind of pull off with one finger. You just put a little bit of pressure and they come right off. And then we're going to top stitch. So I'm going to fold that down, crank it up to a top stitching decorative stitch length. And then I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the seam I just created. Like so. And then we're going to grab our other side and we're going to pin that on. I'm going to use less clips this time. I actually usually just grab whatever I've grabbed. So if I grab 4, I use 4. If I grab 2, I use 2. And back stitch. And then pull it out. And then back to your decorative stitch length. I'm going to do it from this end because then technically there's more bulk on this side than this side. If you've got a domestic machine, roll it up like this and then it'll fit. I'm just going to do it to show you. But it's a bit like quilting. You just roll it up out of your way. And voila. Alright, bag feet are next. So I've got my bag feet here. And I'm just going to rule some lines as to where they need to live. I'm going to do them in line with this. If I'm using 4 though, if you're using 5, she's actually got a guide for where to put them, which is pretty cool. There, there. And then there and there. Right. See, and this is why I didn't put these too far away. Grab my hole punch. Now, I did used to have a handheld hole punch, but I'm not going to lie, this one is way better. It doesn't hurt my arms. It doesn't bend under, like, layers. I'm a very big fan. And I've only got one size rivet set, so I think it's 10 mil or 12 mil. I'm really not sure. It come with my cam die press thing. Somebody actually gave it to me because they didn't want to sew anymore, and it sat in my room for ages and I never used it. And then I started making bags, and now it's amazing. All right, so I've pushed all my posts through from the back. And then I'm just going to take my domed bag feet. I really do love these. I think they look really pretty. So one thing I did forget to do before this video is my new way of tagging my bags with my brand is I stick it on the base in the bottom. So in embroidery week, I'm going to show you that. I actually think there's going to be a lot more videos in embroidery week because some of them are just do and done. Anyway, okie dokie, done that. Put your feet in. Stereo's done. Okay, so that's done. So we're going to pop that aside. Also, we're about to be doing these bits because they're for the inside. That's for later construction, so I don't need them yet. Same with those. Alrighty, so we're going to take our, where is it? So this piece that's got the box drawn on it. I hope you didn't cut it out. So we're going to take one of our outside, one of our lining pieces. I've chosen green because it went really well with what I was doing. And then we're going to line it up right there. Go back to a joining stitch length, which again for me is 2.5. And then I'm going to place that in a corner, back stitch, needle down, pivot. Again. So for the corner ones, I always kind of manually crank it so that it's right in the corner where I want it. I've never really explained that that's what I'm doing. Today I've noticed I'm consciously doing it. Okay. So then grab some scissors and I'm going to bend that in half and just make a little snip. And then we're going to snip to about 1/2 inch from the end and then triangle out the corners. Due to the fact that I still haven't looked up what that's called, we're going to keep calling it that. 1 and 2 like that. And then we just push that to the inside of the pocket. I'm going to finger press that to make sure it's going to sit a bit better. You could also iron this. I haven't quite worked out my portable ironing station yet, so I'm finger pressing today. Like that. Beautiful. So now we've got the opening. Scroll down. Then we're going to take our accent piece. Now I'm going to put some double-sided tape on this so it will hold in place. I've got 2 size double-sided tape. So this is my skinny one. It is, I want to say 6 mil. 3 mil. No, I think maybe, I don't know. 6 mil. It's 6 mil. And then my other one is 12 mil. So I use the skinny one mainly for things like this and for doing card slots in things like the Pocket Pearl by Lynn's Handmade and the Coffin Wallet by Seemingly Wicked. That's why I bought it, for doing those kinds of card slots. And of course Scully. So then we're just going to line that up along that edge, like so. Stick it all down, like that. And then I'm going to stitch the outside edge of that accent piece. It's going to say the square, but it's not because she chopped off the corners to make it look prettier. Alright, so for this I'm going to stitch 2 holes and then go back through the first one to lock that in. And then I'm going to pivot and go down. I'm really working on having nice sharp corners on this because it's an accent panel, so everyone's going to stare at it. That's what it's designed to do. If you're new to top stitching, don't go that fast. That would be silly. You're more likely to run off the edge if you do things like that. All right, accent panel on, and I can see through it. So now we want these pieces. So this is for my zippered pocket. So there should be 2. And for this bag, I'm thinking I might go with the turquoise zipper tape. Just because, why not, really? So I needed the length of my zipper pocket. And then I'm gonna, as soon as I cut it, I'm gonna just quickly singe the ends with a cigarette lighter, so that they don't go yucky. I'm going to do this one as well because now it's good for next time. And when it sits there, and I throw things around a lot, so it's not going to fray away to nothing. Okay. So I'm going to do, what does it say? Lay 1 zipper pocket right side up, align the edge of the zipper pocket. So we're going to stick that on there like this. Right side's up, right side's down. Right side's up. Okay. So we're just going to stitch along here. Making sure we backstitch at both ends, and I just ran out of bobbin thread, so that was lucky. It's alright, I prepared another one. So I've got these really cool plastic bobbin holders so that when they're sitting beside me, they don't unravel. Super cool. They come with my embroidery machine, but I use them over here because I buy pre-wound bobbins, so I don't really have a lot of floating threads going on. Okie dokie. I am concerned. Why do I think this needs to go the other way? I feel like I fall for this every time I do these. Right side's up. Right side's up. Hold on 1 second. I just actually read the instructions. I also have to top stitch along here. That makes more sense. There we go. I stitch along the other side. And then I'm going to put my zipper pull on. Now you could have done this first. I very clearly chose not to. I'm using the Smooth Criminal ones that I have on my website. Because I've actually decided I really like these. Even though they don't have a hole in them, I like them. Now, you want to line it up, and then you can just push it on, and on she goes, maybe. Maybe not. It's alright, I have a zipper jig. So my zipper jig is literally like a fork. I always find I have to separate the zip more to use the zipper jig. Come on. You know you want to. Hasn't been my week for zippers. I'll tell you what. At all, actually. So I just fully separated it and went to the other end. Okay, now she's on. There we go. Love it. Okie dokie. I'm going to lay this over the top of this, like this. Lining it up in the center, so you want to make sure that you're centered from the back. Then I'm going to top stitch the inner box. So I'm going to go back up to my decorative stitch length because it's going to look nicer. One back stitch in the corner, needle down and pivot. And then I'm going to zip it open so that it's out of my way. One more there, pivot up the edge. And then I'm going to stop when I get to here and then zip the zipper back out of the way. Okay, and then trim off the tails. Voila! And so then she says to trim off this bit here so that they're even. That is actually part of the pattern. I like it because then you don't have to think about which one you're stitching where. And so then we're going to stitch down the sides. Now she also folds back and irons the raw edge. I don't do mine that way. I'm quite happy to just tuck it in. But that just helps because this is obviously where we're going to turn through our bag at the end. So I'm going to trim off my tails as I go. And then stitch up the side. So I'm just moving all of this lining over out of the way, stitching up the side. Now it doesn't matter if I get that piece that we put through for the zipper pocket, the facing, it's fine. So now I'm also going to zip open my pocket because I want to remember to leave that open. So if it's open, we're sorted. Moving on to the other side. So we've nearly run out of pieces, which is kind of exciting. And so far, I'm doing it in the order it tells me to. Alright, so right sides together, like this. And then we're going to stitch each of the short folded sides that we just did, and we're going to leave this top bit open. We're also going to go down to a joining stitch length. Do the other side. So I always start from the raw open edge because then it will naturally go to halfway all by itself. Otherwise, you could iron it, I suppose, if you wanted to. And then we're going to flip this out. So I'm going to poke out those corners with my fingers. Scrolling down. And then we're just going to baste the raw edges together to make it easier when we attach our fancy accent piece. You can skip this bit if you want to, but we all know my stance on basting. I love it. Because now that's just one solid piece and I don't have to think about it opening. Okie dokie. So now the idea is that we're going to stick this on here, fold in the raw edge, like that, and then fold that down on top. So the easiest way that I'm going to find to stick this down is I'm actually going to use this to really crease that side. I could also actually use my pliers since that's what I bought them for. So these are leather tool pliers. I got them on eBay. So they've got no teeth in here. For those that have never seen me use them, it's completely flat in here so that it won't damage your vinyl or put imprints in it. It's really good for squishing seams. And in this case, these little ends. You just stick it in, and I use 2 hands to squish. The only downfall to these is that they have no grip piece, so they're quite harsh on your hands, but worth it because they're awesome. So I'm also going to take a piece of double-sided tape, now that I've done that, and go all the way along, peel off the backing, and then go back to that crease. The reason I did it before I put the tape on is because I didn't want to get tape on the pliers. Like that. See, now it simply sits there. So I can sit this in between, right in the center like this, and then just fold it over in half, like this. Now you don't have to do it in vinyl, you could definitely do this in a fabric, but I'm using vinyl because I like vinyl. And because I don't have a solid orange, otherwise a solid orange on this edge would look really fun. And then we're just going to top stitch that down. So I'm going to start in the corner. Slow and steady wins the race when top stitching. And this is a little bit fiddly. So again, if you're new to sewing, I would suggest doing this out of fabric and not vinyl. But you would make it twice as wide so that you could have no raw edge here either. Okie dokie. Looking good. I like it. I like how I cut my pocket too. That's a really fun piece. Okie dokie. Da, 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 da. So now we're going to find the center of this piece. We're going to need the center of the other piece later probably too, but that's cool. Now I'm obviously not going to clip this because it's sewn, but I am just going to crease it like this so that I know where the center is, and then I'm going to pop that there. But with that side, because I like this side more. Like that. And then you can pin it if you want to. I actually do have some pins hanging up here. So if you've got pins handy, you could pin this in place. Because it's all fabric, pins won't harm it. See, look at that. What else does she say to do? Da, 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 da. Okay, so we're going to stitch around the edge. Like this, and then across the bottom. And then when you get to the center, we're going to go up. We're going to go across a stitch. We're going to go back down the other side. I'm going to backstitch that little gap that we missed. And then go to the edge and then up the other side. And that way you have done it all with only one line of stitching. And you now have your 2 pockets. Yes. Ta-da! 2 pockets. Yay! Alright, grab our base. Now, I'm going to leave a side on the side where the zipper pocket isn't. This is just my personal thing that I do. It is easier to stitch up when the gap is on the opposite side to the pocket, the zipper pocket piece and not the same side. So I'm going to stitch, ew, my thread's gone a little bit funky there. There we go, that's better. Oops, throw them snips away. So I'm going to stitch like that much. So that's enough to make the bag without having a hole. And it's also going to be enough to be able to stitch it shut and pull it through. So you want to be able to keep as big a hole as possible because then it's easier to turn the bag through. But if I only did 1 inch, that's going to be really hard to stitch shut. So you need to do a little bit more than that, in my opinion. But you, again, want to try and leave the biggest gap possible because that's where I want to turn the bag through. So that's one side. Then I'm going to grab the other zipper side and stitch this whole thing shut. Oh no, wait, hold on. I should read the instructions. No, we're not stitching this one on yet, according to the instructions. Sorry, I meant to be following the instructions. This is the thing that I'm trying to do now. Instead of just doing it my way. So, I don't use a quick unpick. I don't like them. I think that they wreck fabric. I am terrible with them. I prefer to just snip this and then just lightly pull. Another way that you can unpick is you can go to the bobbin side of the thread and chop every 4th stitch, and then the top one will just lift out. It's another fun way of doing it. Alright, we are doing it according to the pattern, so ignore that. Then you can just pull the fluffy bits out. Or just run your finger along them and they usually just come out anyway. Alright. What does the actual pattern say? Alright, zipper pocket. Grab our outside and our zipper. I'm going to cut my zipper now. Alright, my zipper scissors. I do have zipper scissors that are designed to cut just zips and plastic and paper. The reason for this is as soon as you start cutting things like that, you wreck your good scissors, and that's not ideal. Okay. So I'm going to grab a lining piece, and we're going to clip this on. Now, you, if you want to, can clip all 3 pieces at the same time. I don't like doing it. I'm not good at it. I think this is much quicker. It may not seem it, but I think it is, than trying to line up 3 pieces at once. So now the 2 are lined up, I can now just take the outside and stick it on top and just add it into the already clipped clips. Like that. And I say the word clip a lot. And then you can come to the other end so it stops flopping around so much and work your way backwards. Like so. And then with my outside piece on top, because that's how I like to sew it, we're going to backstitch and then sew. Now, with this, you kind of want to put the weight of the bag on the table so that you're not fighting it while you're sewing. Then I'm going to open it back up and backstitch. I'm not going to put those clips away. I'm about to need them again. Just like I'm going to need my snips. And so then we're going to push this seam allowance under like this, and then we're going to top stitch the outside side, the exterior. If you want to, you can make your top stitch more decorative. As this is still joining for me, I'm just going to leave it. On this fabric, you're not really going to see it anyway. So I'm just tucking my hand under and pulling it over and then stitching a bit. And then tucking my hand under and making sure that it's sitting towards the side of the exterior. I'm also conscious I'm not going to hit the camera, because you're like right there. Okay, trim off the tails. So that is now one side on. So then we're going to come and join this up here. So right sides together. What am I doing? That way. Another thing you could do if you wanted to is separate your zip. And then I'm going to grab this piece and pop it onto here like this. So I just added into the clips that are already there. Like so. Exterior side up. That's just my preference. If you have a really wide normal foot, now's the time to put your zipper foot on too for these things. And then backstitch at the end. Trim it all off. I can put the clips over there out of the way. And then, to make the top stitching easier, I'm going to separate the zipper. Because otherwise you'd be zipping through a tunnel. And I'm putting 2 zippers on this, so I'm going to stick one on each end anyway. So my bag will be closed at both ends. But if you're only putting 1 zipper, what you do is you zip the whole thing shut, and then you take the zipper all the way off, and then go back to the start and put it back on. And that will seal the zipper back together. So again, I'm just tucking, I know you can't see underneath my hand, but I'm just tucking that seam allowance to where I'm sewing, to making sure I'm sewing it down. The reason for this top stitching is it's going to make this seam sit flatter and nicer. Ta-da! So now you just should have this, like a really big long bag, basically. What would you like us to do next? I kind of like this. This is a fun game. Alright, put our zippers on. I was just double checking, because you never know. Here are my zippers. Alright. So, if you're only using 1 zipper, I'm going to show you what to do. Whoops. And then I'm going to put 2 on anyway. So I'm going to stick one side in and then the other side in. And hopefully my zip's going to like me this time around. I might have to get my zipper jig for this. Yep, no, gonna need my zipper jig. Hold that thought. let me remove, so it also holds on my double-sided tape for me, because I like things to have multi-purposes. So it's literally just like an old clamp we had in the shed. Clamp's a bit rusty, but it doesn't transfer anything, so I don't care. Alright, so we're just going to feed both sides in. Maybe. Come on. It's not my week for zippers. I don't know what's going on. Gimme. Alright, so if you're only using one zipper, zip it all the way shut and take the zipper back off, and then you come back to the start and put it back on. And that way the whole, like both ends are sealed so that it's going to sit properly. But I didn't really need to do that because I'm putting 2 zips on, because I want my bag to be able to open from both sides. So that's one end. And then I'm just going to come. Some people like to put their zips upside down. It's a personal preference. I like mine right sides up. Although with the way this week's going in zippers, maybe I should try it upside down. So it's on-ish. Wasn't on properly. So again, why is that doing that? My zip just randomly opened in a bit. So I'm going to take it off, do it again. Told ya, it's not my week for zips. I never have these issues. It's not the zipper pulls, because it was doing it to my other ones as well. Nope. Alright, I'm going to hit pause and get the zipper on. Right, so gave up. It's having one zip. Haven't got time for this. It's being silly now. So, zips on. Next we are putting on our ends. So I'm going to start with the lining side. So what we're going to do is we're going to push the exterior out of the way and just sew this lining piece on. So when I say sew it on, we're just going to sew up to the zip, but not over the zip. We're going to make sure that we backstitch to lock it in. And don't worry about the little gap where the zip is. We will fix that in a minute. Flip this side over. Sew up the other side. So again, we're going to stitch up to but not over the zip. This is why we do the lining side first, because it's easier to maneuver. So I'm going to take my outside piece and I do the same thing. So again, line it up. Push this one, the lining pieces out of the way. Top stitch. Up to, but not over the zip. And then again with the other side. Up to, but not over the zip. So then what we can do is we can flatten both the lining and the top piece out and then stitch over the zip. So we're going to stitch all of those pieces at the same time. Like that. And so now, on both sides, it's sealed, so you can't get to your zip end. So now, let's do the other end. Now, again, if you're a beginner at this, pin it together. The bag stands up quite nicely, as you can see. Up to the zip, but not over it, and making sure we backstitch at both ends. Because if this comes undone once you've built your bag, you'll be cursing a lot. Line up the other side. Pull the exterior out of the way. Up to, but not over the zip. And yes, I'm sure you're sick of me saying it. But I'm narrating what I do as I go, so I have to say it. There, under, stitch, up to the zip. Flip. Like that, and then open these out so they're both flat, and then top stitch over the zip, joining the two sides. Trim off all of those tails. Okay, so now your bag almost looks like a bag, except it's not joined. So from here, I am going to start with my actually, what I'm going to do is turn the bag inside out now, which should be pretty easy. You've got the whole zipper space to do it. Look how easy that was. Ah, love it. Alright, which order would she like us to do it in before I go off on my own? I've done them. I've done that. Alright, she wants us to do the outside first. Cool, just checking. So we're going to take the center of this and the center of our base and clip it together. Now I'm going to use a lot of clips for this because outsides always need a lot of clips. We're fighting all of that foam and vinyl and everything. So I'm just going to start from the center and work my way out. And then when I get to this bit here where the join is, I want the join to face the base. It always sits nicer if you face the base. I also really like saying face the base. I'm going to keep clipping upwards. Like that. Then I'm going to switch to the other side and do the same thing. So I like to start from the bottom and work my way up. Like so. And then again, when I get to this little seam allowance, I'm going to put that towards the bottom. That is surprisingly important. If you don't do that, it's going to sit funny. Always make those edgy bits face down. Now we're going to stitch this. So we're going to start up where the foam is. So the foam is pretty much your stitch guide, which makes it very, very easy. So we're going to stitch. Now this is a 3D object, so we're going to hold it as such. Right, as we get closer to here, we're going to lift up this side. And that is caught. Just wrecking my moment. See that? That is why you should always trim your tails. I missed one, and now look. It's messing with me. I'm also going to clean up this as I go. See, my clips didn't hold. Too much fighting going on, apparently. This reminds me a little bit of Maisie, actually. See, 3D object. You hold it as a 3D object, you'll get so much further. See all these tails? They're in the way. Okay, making sure that that stitches down. You also want to make sure that you're not stitching your lining into here. You want to hold it out of the way. And preferably don't keep dropping your snips. It's not good for them. Love it. I've got a little bit here where the clips didn't hold and I wasn't paying attention. So I'm just going to come back and stitch it from the other side. Like this. So this bag, if I am to make more, which I most likely will because they're adorable, I will be making them on my cylinder arm machine because that seam will be way, way easier. I have set it up. I am actually going to have to rearrange my sewing room this week or next week so that I can do videos, because where it sits at the moment, videos cannot be done. Because you can't see anything. There's a wall, so you can't sit in front of me, and there's no space behind me. So I will do a bit of rearranging when I get to a point where I can't be bothered sewing anymore during the day, and I will rearrange it so we can do videos, because I want to do the large Tribbiani on it, because I have one for an order, so I really need to get on to doing that, and so therefore rearranging everything. Right, so because the last lot of clips wasn't enough, I'm now going double. By double, I literally mean double. Like, there is basically no gap between the clips so that it's less likely to move. Now, a lot of people I know like to use staples to staple it together. I have tried that once and my stapler just didn't want to do it. So I took that as a sign not to bother. This is an insane amount of clips, but I am therefore now very confident that it's not going to move. And I also want to make sure I'm not getting that lining in there because it keeps trying to sneak in, which is another reason to sew it with the lining side face up so you can see what's going on. Okay. That's a lot of clips. I don't even care. It wants to be stubborn, I can be stubborn too. In fact, you can even tuck that to the inside because the zip is open. And then just clean up the clips as you go. Now I'm going to start lifting from here because we're starting to get to the curve. And again, 3D object. And then just pull the clips off as we get to them. Oh, and there's someone at my door. I'm pretty excited about these. I got stickers done that say, trim your tails, because I'm ridiculous, and I thought they were cool. I'm literally going to stick one on my machine right now. Ha 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 ha. Yes. I buy the most ridiculous things. I'm okay with it. They look cool. Alright, back to where I was. I turned the machine off. That's such a habit. I walk away and make sure I turn the machine off. It wouldn't hurt it to keep it on, but I wouldn't want to accidentally keep it on all night. That's probably not good for it. Okay. How are we doing for behaving ourselves? And when I say me, I really mean the seam. Okay. Side bits are the easy bit. It's that base bit that doesn't want to play ball. So now I'm just going to flip it over and do what I did before and just get that little bit there. There we go. Okay. Trim off the excess so that it sits nicely. You can just kind of hack at it. It's fine. I always hack at it. less bulk here means the lining is going to sit nicer inside. So then I can just take all of that and throw it in the bin. Do the same to the other side. Cut off that excess. I was actually wondering where those stickers were. Then I remembered Australia Post is not very good at the moment. Okie dokie. Now let's do the lining. Trying to do it her way. So I'm reading as I go to make sure I do it properly. So we're going to want to stitch this shut now. So that it's one whole piece. Because I left the other side open. I always do the side I'm going to leave open first. So that I remember, because if I forget, I've still then got a backup side and I don't have to unpick. Okay. So then I'm going to trim off all these tails so that I don't get intertwined with what I'm doing. And then I do the same thing again. So I'm going to take the base and clip it. And clip it. And then work my way up the side, which is actually over here. So you're still going to want to use a lot of clips for this, because now you're fighting the finished outside. I'm going to squish the bag, because I can always iron it later. And then again, with this seam allowance, we want it to face downwards. So I'm going to clip it in that direction. And then just continue clipping up. You could even use pins for this because it is the lining fabric. And so it doesn't matter about pinning it, as you won't damage the fabric. So I'm just going to keep going up the side. So I always start from the bottom and work my way up. And then I'm at that again. So I'm going to make it face the base. Clip it into position. Like that. There we go. So now I've got to get in here. This should be fun. So I'm going to do it from this side up, because I feel like it's going to go under the machine easier. And I'm just going to go slowly, making sure that I'm moving the main part of the bag out of the way as I go. Always stopping with the needle down so I don't lose my position as I readjust everything. Tucking all the excess fabric out of the way so that I don't accidentally stitch that into stuff as well. And then up past that raw edge. I know it doesn't look like it, but yay, done. Other side. So again, I'm going to bring the bottom down, start here. And then lots of clips. I know I'm going to like this bag. I know I'm going to want to keep this bag, but I feel like there's got to be a limit to how many bags I own. I don't know. We'll see. I might keep it. I really like this fabric, and I love that I've done green as the lining. Okay. And then other way. Work your way up the side. So there's no right or wrong answer to how many clips. I'm doing a lot of clips on the lining because usually I do the lining first, but I'm doing what the pattern says because I'm being good. And I'm trying to do it in the order that the pattern says so you guys can follow along. That's the main reason I'm doing this. Otherwise, what's the point? Speed sewing videos, all bets are off though. Okay, so now I've got all my clips. I know that just looks like a big mess, but I promise it'll be fine. Alright, push the bag out of the way. Start here, back stitch. I'm just going slowly because I've got a lot of clips and I don't want to run into them at all. Alright, that's enough clips. It's a handful. Stop and readjust. There we go. So now that giant bottom is going to be a really easy way to turn your bag through. Basically what I try and do is push all of it into the hole like that, and then from there it's just an easy case of maneuvering the rest out. You can even stick your hand in and push like so. Look at that. Love it. I also forgot to tell you to match up your accents on the sides. But if you've done everything according to plan, it should do it anyway. But I did technically forget to tell you that, so I'm telling you now. You know what? You haven't stitched up the bottom, so if it's all crooked and wrong, you can just go and unpick it and fix it as of now anyway. Alright. Look at that, we have a bag. So now I'm going to stick my hand into the pocket and pull through that bottom so that I can stitch it shut. So it's going to fight you a little bit depending on how big of a hole you left. The bigger the hole, the potentially more tricky it is to stitch shut. If you want to, you can pin it. I'm not going to. I'm just going to hold it together as I go. And then stop with the needle down and pull a bit more and readjust. Like so. So yeah, the bigger the hole, the easier... Uh-oh, I just ran out of bobbin thread. Oh, and I don't have another one done. That's okay. We'll do one now. Now, yesterday I did a video on where to put the oil. And I talked about needles. Lots of people are asking me what needle should you use, so I figure I will just answer in a video. Okay. So, I want to start my bobbin like that, and then I'm going to get some oil because I can't hold everything at once. There are limits to my powers. Stick just a little bit of oil on there, and you listen to how much more quieter it's about to be. That's enough. So then, before I do any sewing, I'm just going to put an empty piece of fabric through to pick up any oil that may have overflowed because I potentially overfilled it. You don't have to do it for ages, just, you know, a decent line will do. Put my bobbin back in. Now I just tie on my old thread to my new one and pull it through because I find this way quicker. Yes, I waste a little bit of thread, but that much in the scheme of things really isn't all that much. Pull the bottom one out. Now I can continue stitching the bottom. I was so close to... Don't know if you can tell, but that machine is now a lot quieter. Back stitch when you get to the other one, the other end, and then just push that back through, and then I'm going to pull out this pocket, tuck the raw edges under like that, and stitch it shut. And then we just have to attach our handles. With that stitch that I just did there, you want to try and get it as close to that edge as you can without running off the edge. Zip up that pocket now, and then I can just kind of push the lining into the bag. That looks lovely, look at that. Yay! Zip it up. I should have taken the time to do 2 zippers. It would have looked lovely, but I am on a bit of a time crunch lately, and it's still passable. I would still use it with 1. 2's just more fun to play with. Alright, so I'm going to do my usual... Actually, I should check and see if she's got a rule about this. Done that, done that, done that. Alright, so I'm just going to go 1/2 inch up and put a hole. And then because I've used the skinny rings, I only have to go 1 inch above that. If I had have used the chunky rings, which I do sometimes use, you go 1 1/4 inch. If you don't do that extra quarter, it's really, really tight to get them on. So again, there, and then there. There's my hole. There's a hole. And there's a hole. Awesome. So that's one lot done. Again, because this is black, I'm using my stiletto, but instead you could use a Chaco pen and just mark it and wipe the dust off when you're finished. That would work too. You can also score it. Draw like a line, but with your stiletto. That does work. I don't know if you can see that. And you won't see these because they're going on the inside. Okay. done them. So now I'm going to grab my other one because it's quick. Okay, so with handles, I always go up and under. Hold on, I'm going to move so you can see me do this. There we go. So I always go up and under. And then put my post through, usually the top one. There's no right or wrong to that, that's just what I do. And then pop it on. Like that. Then I'm going to come around, whoops, and put the next one in. Up and under, push it through, top on, and squish. I still need to help shape this bag. So I'm going to sit here. After the video, I'm going to sit and I'm going to like finger press those sides so they sit the way I want. Alright, up and in, over, and then squish. Make sure that you've got, before you press down and squish it, your rivet, make sure that it's actually sitting properly or you'll squish it weird. Sometimes you squish it so weird you have to pull it out. I've played that game before. It's not fun. Alright, and squish. There we go. Bag done. Slip pocket, accents everywhere. If you've got an embroidery machine, it would be really cute to embroider something on that pocket. But yeah, hope that was helpful to you guys. I do love this bag. I will definitely be making more. It's adorable. But yeah, until next time, guys. Bye.